Now let's bring in Max Blumenthal. You know Max Blumenthal because he runs The Gray Zone, the investigative journalism website, The Gray Zone, and is the author of many books, the latest Goliath. Welcome, Max Blumenthal.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Good to see you. So let's get to this. Let's get to the story. So this is from Vanity Fair. Look, the fucks over at Vanity Fair are now even catching on. Before they were calling us all conspiracy theorists, and now they're only a year behind us, which is how it normally works for the establishment press, except when it comes to stuff like Russiagate or Syria, that they never catch up. Okay, so here we are. In major shift, NIH admits funding risky virus research in Wuhan. By the way, that picture of Fauci, it's like he's going, oh, did you say Wuhan? I thought you said crouton. I'm sorry. Yes. I don't know. You said Wuhan, but my mind was thinking Wyoming. Don't you hate when that happens? I was thinking Wyoming. I was like, no, we've never done research in Wyoming. I mean, except for maybe that cyborg Cheney. We did that. Wait, what are we talking about? You know, I just forgot that one thing that, oh, fuck, we funded it. There was so much stuff going on that weekend. I had my cousin's wedding. I couldn't think straight. Oh, sometimes receipts just get mixed up. I mean, it's kind of funny. The virus research was filed under Girl Scout cookie. Crazy world. Isn't it a crazy world?
Maybe at some point we could potentially, somewhere in the next few decades, potentially tell the truth to the American public.
Potentially.
But for now, we tell the noble lie.
Nice.
Mask up. Don't talk to your neighbor. Don't hold the line.
Don't hold the line. Here it is. On Wednesday, the NIH sent a letter to members of the House Committee that acknowledged two facts. The House Committee on Energy and Commerce that acknowledged two facts. One was that EcoHealth Alliance, which is a subsidiary of the NIH, they were getting money from Fauci. One was that the EcoHealth Alliance did indeed enhance bat coronaviruses to become more infectious to humans, which the NIH letter described as an unexpected result of the research it funded that was carried out in partnership with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The second fact they acknowledged was that EcoHealth Alliance violated the terms of its grant conditions, stipulating that it had to report if its research increased to viral growth of a pathogen by 10-fold. So I know nobody's a scientist. I'm the furthest thing from it. But sounds like shady shit that they didn't really do what they were supposed to. An NIH spokesman said Dr. Fauci was entirely truthful in his statements to Congress and that he did not have the report that detailed the controversial research at the time he testified. I think that's not true. Why do I think that? Well, because EcoHealth Alliance contradicted that claim by the NIH, and they said in a statement, this data was reported as soon as we were made aware in our Year 4 report in April 2018. So Fauci was aware of this when he was asked about it, and here he's being asked about it.
That the NIH has not ever and does not now
Hang on, let me start over. Here we go.
That the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of Virology.
Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North.
So that's one of my funniest answers. We are not doing that. And if we are doing it, we're doing it according to the rules. Okay, I think you just admitted you're doing it. So that was him lying the first time. Here we go.
For which there was supposed to be a federal pause.
And now Ron Paul, the next time Fauci came back to the Congress, Rand Paul, then says, hey, you lied to me last time. And watch what he says.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you were referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So there he is. Do you see his his defense is hilarious. The people that work for me up and down the chain, he makes it sound like some, they say that you're wrong, and all these people who say it's right are wrong. Okay, that's him lying. So he lied. Rand Paul called him on lying, and he lied again. Okay, just wanted that to make that perfectly clear. The NIH letter coming after months of congressional demands for more information underscored that America's premier science institute has been less than forthcoming about risky research it funded and failed to properly monitor. Let me bring in Max right now. Max, it's as we have been reporting on this show for over a year that Dr. Fauci is a pathological liar. He's not to be trusted. He's working for special interests, and that guy should be fired, because how can you trust a guy who's already admitting to lying twice, 2 huge lies about coronavirus, and now he's gotten caught lying about the third thing. So let me bring in Max. What do you have to say?
There's a lot to say, and I don't think in the short time we have, we can even get to the bottom of this. I mean, this is one of the most significant, one of the most significant lies that's been told in modern politics, because it relates to the origin of the pandemic potentially. At the very least, it relates to some very dangerous scientific research that was being carried out that probably should be banned. And Fauci, as you noted, Jimmy, and you were talking about this early on, has lied for what he considered noble political purposes in the past. He lied about, well, actually, he didn't lie about masks initially. I think I initially got it wrong early on after the pandemic was declared. Fauci said masks do not actually prevent the viral transmission of COVID-19, and you might just get a bunch of stuff in your face. He told colleagues in emails that were later released not to wear a mask. There was no point. But when it became clear that governments wanted to implement mask mandates, then Fauci reversed himself and said, you not only have to wear one mask, you have to wear 2 masks. One schmata on top of the other will somehow protect you more. So we can see him adjusting his scientific opinion according to the politics. And he did so again when he wanted to induce herd immunity in the public, and he said, we only need to get to 70% vaccination rate. Then he said he basically told a noble lie, and that the reality was we need to get to 80%, and that he said that in order to not deter the public from getting vaccinated. At least that's how I understood his rationale for saying that. And now we have something more significant, because we still don't quite know how COVID-19 was produced. There are some who allege, there's an anti-China faction that alleges that it was some kind of bioweapon that was deliberately released from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, or that lacks safety standards completely on the part of the Chinese government and Chinese researchers, resulted in a lab leak. There is also a faction that wants cooperation with China within the U.S. establishment that's determined to kind of deflect and distract from any discussion of the U.S. role. And the U.S. role is what's most significant here, because Fauci and those under him and at EcoHealth Alliance were carrying out a very dangerous kind of research called gain of function, where pathogens in bats are actually increased and effectively weaponized to determine how they can infect humans. So they're basically playing God. And another way of looking at it is how Sam Husseini explained it. Sam Husseini has done work on bioweapons since the very mysterious anthrax attacks that took place right after 9/11, and kind of created the political momentum and that helped drive the narrative for an invasion of Iraq. And Sam has written a lot on COVID-19's origins. And what he pointed out is regardless of whether it came from the Wuhan Institutes of Virology or not, gain of function is kind of like military interventionism, where you're trying to get out ahead of a virus by creating something that's potentially more dangerous than the virus itself. The same way that military interventionists will bomb the crap out of Libya or Syria in order to save the children, and they wind up doing more damage. Have we ever seen gain of function actually resolve one of these viruses? I don't know. I don't think so. I'll stand corrected if anyone can point me to an example. And it raises certain questions about whether this kind of research was actually an end around to do bioweapons experimentation. What we can say, regardless of the origin, is that gain of function is extremely dangerous. It seems that Fauci and others at EcoHealth Alliance, which by the way is funded by USAID, funded by the US government, funded by a US intelligence cutout, that's its main funder, works with DARPA at the Pentagon, that they were offshoring something they considered too dangerous to do in the United States. And on the Chinese side, they were seeking scientific collaboration. The stakes are really high for them. They're obviously worried they could be completely frozen out of international scientific collaboration if it becomes clear that this did originate from that lab. But the US side is not being sufficiently investigated. Fauci has lied about it, and this merits a real investigation, which I think we'll probably never see.
So let me just show you this. This was the former head of the CDC when there was an outbreak of COVID.
If I was to guess, this virus started transmitting somewhere in September, October in Wuhan.
September, October.
That's my own view. It's an only opinion. I'm allowed to have opinions now. I am of the point of view that I still think the most likely etiology of this pathogen in Wuhan was from a laboratory, escaped. Other people don't believe that. That's fine. Science will eventually figure it out. It's not unusual for respiratory pathogens that are being worked on in a laboratory to infect a laboratory worker.
It is also not unusual for that type of research to be occurring in Wuhan. The city is a widely known center for viral studies in China, including the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which has experimented extensively with bat coronaviruses.
It is a remarkable conversation I feel like we're having here, because you are the former CDC director and you were the director at the time this was all happening.
For the first time, the former CDC director is stating publicly that he believes this pandemic started months earlier than we knew, and that it originated not at a wet market, but inside a lab in China.
These are two significant things to say, Dr. Redfield.
And that's not implying any intentionality. It's my opinion, right? But I am a virologist. I have spent my life in virology. I do not believe this somehow came from a bat to a human, and at that moment in time, the virus that came to the human became one of the most infectious viruses that we know in humanity for human-to-human transmission. Normally when a pathogen goes from a zoonotic to human, it takes a while for it to figure out how to become more and more efficient in human-to-human transmission. I just don't think this makes biological sense.
So in the lab, do you think that process of becoming more efficient was happening? Is that what you were suggesting?
Yeah, let's just say I have coronavirus that I'm working on. Most of us in the lab, we're trying to grow a virus. We try to help make it grow better and better and better and better and better and better so we can do experiments and figure out about it. That's the way I put it together.
Again, I'm not a scientist. That sounds very dangerous at the very least. That's why they pause. They put a pause on that kind of research where they make a virus grow better, better, and better. They put a pause on that. And that's why Fauci had to go around and fund it through EcoHealth Alliance. Now, Gilles Dennemouf, a New Zealand data scientist in New Zealand, told Vanity Fair, "I cannot be sure that COVID-19 originated from a research-related accident or an infection from a sampling trip, but I am 100% sure there was a massive cover-up." So just keep that in mind. And remember when Kary Mullis, the guy who invented the PCR test, and he's a Nobel laureate in chemistry, he offered this heartfelt sentiment about Dr. Fauci.
stuff and listen. These guys like Fauci get up there and start talking. He doesn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face. Nothing. The man thinks you can take a blood sample and stick it in an electron microscope, and if it's got a virus in there, you'll know it. He doesn't understand electron microscopy, and he doesn't understand medicine, and he should not be in a position like he's in. Most of those guys up there on the top are just total administrative people, and they don't know anything about what's going on at the bottom. Those guys have got an agenda, which is not what we would like them to have, being that we pay for them to take care of our health in some way. They've got a personal kind of agenda. They make up their own rules as they go. They change them when they want to, and they smugly, like Tony Fauci, does not mind going on television in front of the people that pay his salary and lie directly into the camera.
He doesn't have any problem. I just showed you him lying about the gain of function, right, to Congress. And he did it twice. And he did it indignantly. And, of course, I've showed you that other video a million times of him lying about masks. Max mentioned that earlier. And then he went on and he admitted that he lied about masks. But he said it was okay because he knows better than everybody. So when the top health professional lies about the most important thing in health happening, he's supposed to step down because he's now lost credibility. But because Fauci does the bidding of the establishment, he's never going to be asked to step down. No matter how much he lies. Now maybe because he got caught torturing puppies. Now he might have to step down because he got caught torturing puppies instead of lying about human health. And by the way, we've been on this way ahead of the establishment press. We were called crazy. We were called conspiracy theorists. We are conspiracy analysts here. And Dr. Fauci is a pathological liar who's been screwing over the American public since he got that job decades ago. I want to let you know, on November 6th, we're going to be in Baltimore. November 11th, we're in Tempe, Arizona. November 12th, we're doing Los Angeles and Studio City. November 19th, Los Angeles and Studio City. And then Thanksgiving weekend in Portland, Oregon. Go to jimmydoorecomedy.com for a link for all those tickets.